Well, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip.
And boy, do we have a hodgepodge of a cesspool of information for you today. And I'll tell you right now, as I left the City Council chamber yesterday, I turned around and I said to my co-host Chipper, I said, you know what the city needs? Needs an enema. I'm telling you, it's really bad. And I'm going to go over some quick information, and we're going to get into the meaty stuff. First of the quick information is we were going to tape a show last week regarding the Dominion crisis, but instead we decided we'll bring it briefly here this morning or this afternoon, or wherever you're watching this. And that is, we lost. Amazing, and we knew this. And the problem I have with it is this: only in Fall River can you get and keep a job by losing $1 million. And on top of that, costing us another $70,000 in legal fees. Our legal department doesn't seem to work at all. Everyone seems to get hired outside of the legal department, but they make $100,000+ a piece each. I mean, even the assistant corporate counsel, Krista DiOrio, is making $80,000, $80,000, and she's fresh out of law school. And if you work for the DA's office, you only make $35,000. So I mean, she got a really cushy job there. Maybe Mike Dion's right. Maybe there is something magical on Jenks Street. I don't know. So we have to look at that. Mark Dion doesn't write articles that he can't back up, so I'm going by what he said, Mark. But what do you think about the legal department, Chip? I mean, this is amazing.
Well, I try to think as little as possible about them, but the reality is we have to, because I think I mentioned at last night's council meeting that, and I have nothing personally against Ms. DiOrio, but the fact is that when it speaks to how Fall River is mismanaged when you hire someone out of law school and give them double what somebody out of law school that works for the DA gets. Who has ever heard of an attorney with absolutely no experience, no court experience, no adjudication experience live, getting $70,000 and then getting a pay raise to $80,000 when they haven't even won a case yet? It just speaks to why we're in the kind of financial condition we're in. And now they want everybody to take a pay cut. And let's face it, the people who work for $28,000 and $35,000, that pay cut's going to kill them, especially with the health care, which we're going to get into later. But let's face it, all the cronies and the political hacks who have been hired during this administration have received 50% pay raises, 44% pay raises. They're making probably 100% over the market value of their job. So you know something, anytime you want to give me a 50% raise and then take back 10%, I'll make that deal anytime. So they're not being hurt by this, so it's nothing more than a gesture. And again, it's balancing the budget on the city employees and the taxpayers of the city.
And it's really sad. I mean, when you look at what they're doing and what the mayor is asking of people, I didn't hear the mayor say, oh, I'll give up 15% of my pay. I didn't hear Liz say she'll give 15% of hers, or Christie say she'll give up 15% of hers. But we want the fire department, not every other department. But again, in full disclosure, the mayor said, I cannot discuss those issues because of collective bargaining agreements. It seems he discusses every other issue that's in collective bargaining. But you can't just go to the fire department, so you have to pay for it all. You did it, Mr. Mayor. You gave these guys the big raise. You were asked if you could afford it, and you said, oh yeah, no problem. And now a $16 million deficit mysteriously and magically became a $3 million deficit, which I kind of thought would happen. And you found money that you didn't even know you had. Doesn't say a lot for your bookkeeping. And it's now been said it's $3 million, not $5 million, Chip, that they're going to recover by going over to GIC. It's amazing how you can do this. And then, of course, a 2.5% hike in the property taxes and the water fee and the sewer fee and every other fee that you're going to hit us with. What do we, as the people of Fall River, expect when the people of Fall River can barely afford to pay the city for the lack of services that they're getting? I don't know. I mean, we have to ask ourselves, why are we in this mess? I know why we're in this mess, but do you? We're in this mess because of Mayor Fail Again. Because Mayor Fail Again has done just that. He's failed again. Chipper, you got some real good information we need to present, and I'm going to hold you off for a second there for one more thing.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
I went over at the city council meeting yesterday, and I brought up the recent bond orders and projects going on. And on a whole bunch of them, I found that we were over budget. You know that park that they decided to fund with leftover money from the Morton project? Where can you find leftover money in a $254,000 cost overrun, a deficit? But the city council found it, but it's not there. I went through all of these projects, and I didn't even bother to touch the water department because it was so convoluted there that Terry Sullivan's got everything messed up. But remember, Terry Sullivan said the regulations are too strict and changing too often for him to follow them. Well, if you can't follow them, get a new job. We called it out last night on the city council hearing. We let you know, just like we let you know here. Watch that city council meeting if you haven't seen it yet. See what Fall River is doing to you. It's not fair. And what they're doing to the city employees, and especially our retirees with this GIC program, is another story that Chipper has for you. So, Chip.
Thanks, CJ. Well, first I have to commend you for again presenting some figures yesterday, which only corroborate the fact that we have absolutely no idea what's going on with our money in this city. We have the mayor saying they found money that they didn't know they had, yet they claim they had money that they don't have. CJ yesterday exposed the fact that some of these bonds that they said they were actually short money when they said they had extra money in them, and they used it for the parks. You know, you can't run a railroad this way, you can't run a city this way, because every time they lose money, misspend money, and have an absolute disregard for what they're spending, the solution is always the same. Take more money from the taxpayers and the city workers. Balance the budget on the backs of the people who have the least ability to pay, while we keep all our cronies fat and happy. And the retirees, this new health care plan is absolutely, it's criminal what they've done. It's criminal. The fact is that the Fall River City Health Care Plan won a national award. We are running overall 7% under budget, and the retirees are running 11.5%, almost 12% under budget. Yet what do we get for being so efficient? That's probably the only thing in Fall River that's being run properly. So what we get is, we get them to try to gut what the health care plan we have now and impose the burden, because it's not a cost savings, it's a cost shift. For the average, I did some quick figures yesterday. With the deductibles and the co-pays, if you availed yourself of the general services like emergency room, etc., one time per calendar year, under the present plan, you would spend about $575 in co-pays and deductibles. If you avail yourself under the plan they're offering, it's $2,360. That is just, that's out-of-pocket expenses to people. And we had the president of the school clerks come up and say that she makes 35, and there are people who make less than her. And she can't afford the co-pays now. And again, the city lies, misrepresents. CJ says now they're saying they're only going to get $3 million from this shift. Well, we're already $3 million under budget with the present plan. I have the figures that the city presented the Insurance Advisory Committee that said they were going to save $9 million. So, I mean, the fact is, you know, how do we figure this out? Because nobody, you know, every time they give a number, they give one number to the city council, one number to the radio, one number to the general public. But the reality is nobody knows what we've got here, and it's time to get a full and independent audit of this city, because it's obvious that this city is in a total state of disarray. We have absolutely no ability to control our spending, and you know, as CJ said, watch the meeting. We put the city council on notice. I told them, we will be watching you, and if I have to write an individual letter to every city worker and every retiree We will replace everybody on that city council if we have to, unless somebody starts looking at this budget and cutting the fat before they start breaking the taxpayers' backs and breaking the people who serve your services in this city and taking money away from them.
Is there a new section of the Certified Public Accountant test, Fall River Mathematics? It's got to be.
I believe it's the same. I believe it's the same one that has a special dispensation for the bar exam. The CPA and a bar exam are given in crayon.
Oh, okay.
For
that would make sense because, you know, we always have these audits done by Schneider and whoever and all these other people, and they always come back perfect for Fall River. For some, you know, Sahadi does this and everyone else. And we're always told not to worry. We were told by Sean Kadim last year that the $3 million is being put into the stabilization fund to make our bond rating look good. Okay, it looks good for the bond rating. Now we're going to take out that stabilization money to meet the budget needs. Well, so there's no stabilization money. So our bond rating is going to go in the toilet, which means we're going to borrow more money because we borrow for everything. I mean, I honestly believe that we borrow to flush the toilets in this town because there's enough of it that we'd have to be wearing boots. It's not making sense. So grandma has to pay or starve because that's what she has to do. She's got to decide whether to get her blood pressure medication or her heart medication, or do I buy food for myself? Because Mayor Fairlegan decided that we're going to give you the best health plan possible. It is the best health plan possible, isn't it? Of cleaning your wallet. It's amazing. It's sad. It's sad that we're going to do this to our retirees and our city employees. What is the annual cap, shall we say, of out-of-pocket expenses on GIC?
The annual cap on the GIC is out-of-pocket is for a individual $5,000 and for a family $10,000. And the present plan it's $2,505, so it's double. So I just want the people out there to imagine somebody that's working in City Hall for $30,000 a year, has a few children, and now has to hit $10,000 before you know they can deal with it. The deductibles are insane. For example, for the active people and the people who aren't eligible for Medicare, an emergency room visit right now is $50. It's a $50 copay. Under the new plan, if you go to the emergency room, it's $100, which is double, which is bad enough, but there's also a $250 deductible that you have to pay. So for your first visit to the emergency room, it's $350, not $50 anymore. So do the math. If your son gets hurt at a Little League game and you take him to the emergency room, you get hit with a $350 bill. If your daughter falls out of the swing 2 days later and you take her to the emergency room, you're paying $350 for her. And then if you get hurt, you're paying $350. You know, I mean, and here we are in a city that's got the second lowest per capita and household income in the state. We are second in people below the poverty level. Our workers, for the most part, except for the chosen few, as I will say, make far less than their counterparts in other communities. And now you're going to turn around and take this burden, whether it's $3 million or $9 million or somewhere in between. But the fact is that everything's going up. And my commentary tonight will be on the retirees. So I'll get into the numbers for the retirees at a later date. But it is unconscionable that the taxpayer has to look at increases, as you said, CJ, in water, in sewer, in meter fees, and maximum 2.5 increase in the taxes. All this, when we sat at the budget hearings last year and heard Sean Kadim say that the city was on solid financial footing, well, somebody was lying.
Well, maybe not. Think about this for a second. Maybe not. Maybe we were on solid financial footing, but then we got a new treasurer, a new auditor, and a new financial team. And all of a sudden, we went to the toilet. So maybe Sean Kadim had it together, and then after he left, all of a sudden, we went to pot. You know, I mean, that's possible. The most likely thing is the bull just kept flying downhill. And, you know, what they say, throw it against the wall enough and maybe something will stick. It's just sad. I mean, we can't live this way. We can't. Property owners are saying, I got to get out of town. We have firemen which have resigned their positions, they've retired, or they've laterally transferred to other fire departments because, to quote them, they're not going to exist in an apocalyptic outcome of 153 firefighters. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's even worse than that when it comes to the fire department. I have actually spoken to a few firefighters that are getting laid off and recommended that if they get a job in another community to stay there, because the city has demonstrated that they have an absolute disregard for the service these people provide by what they're doing to them actively and what they're doing to the retirees. Because every single retiree that's affected here worked for this city for over 30 years for the most part, if they're off on a normal superannuation pension. They gave 30 to 40 years of their life serving this city, working, giving up pay raises to get health care. And what does the city do? It turns around and imposes a financial burden to the people who make the least. And I will say, we'll get into that. Well, yeah, I'll get into it now. I won't save this one for the commentary. Our state legislature, in an infinite wisdom, had took the collective bargaining piece out, so we couldn't protect our health care any longer. And it's easy for them because retirees, when they get a cost of living adjustment, I will tell you what the max is. It's $360 a year. That's less than $1 a day. But when the legislators get a pay raise, theirs is capped at $16,000. And they also get, and these are the figures we brought up on an old show, Senator Roderick's was the third highest in per diem in the state. The third highest in the state. We have a state rep that was only up there for 116 days, and he got $4,176 in per diem. If you factor it out for a year, that is over $12,000 in per diem. That's almost that's over $1,000 a month in per diem. So I guess when you get all these hidden perks and pay raises and you get 6 months off the campaign, you have a cavalier attitude. But I take it very personally when they attack people who are in their 80s and 90s and have served this city for their entire life, and now they want to make them have to choose between a medication and eating or a medication and losing their house.
Well, and I had brought, you and I talked about this, and I had brought this up before with you in discussions, that I looked at some previous state representatives from Fall River, particularly Kevin Aguiar, because he's the most recent previous representative, he and David Sullivan. And the base pay for a representative is between $56,000 and $61,000. Kevin, in his last year in office, made $75,000+ as a state rep. That was his salary. Plus, and he wasn't in office that long to garnish $75,000, let's be real. And he garnished about $9,000 in per diem. $84,000. And then he comes to Fall River after he gets bounced. Yes, he got bounced. He didn't resign. And he gets a job as a guidance counselor at a local school. And again, we have to ask, how much are you getting paid there? Probably about 60, if not more. And that's because New Bedford didn't want him back, by the way. But, and I'm not picking on Kevin Aguiar at all. I'm just pointing out some facts about numbers here. But we have to say to ourselves, they can bring home all this money. And they're all touting GIC, because they all have GIC. Okay, so they're all touting it. But do you know not one of them, not one, Representative Alan Sylvia, Representative Carol Fiola, Representative Paul Schmidt, not one of them came out and said, this is not good for the retirees. This is not good for the employees. Why? Because they pay for their insurance and their co-pays and everything else out of their per diem money, it seems. And it's nice when you have money that you can just throw it away like that. Doesn't work that way for me. I know that. I don't know, Chip. This is just becoming more and more like the Detroit, here we come. I mean, it's right around the corner for us.
I don't know how we're not there. So it's hard to fathom, but we have to look at, the system is broken in Washington, in Boston, and in Fall River. The fact is that, we are to blame because we let these people stay in office. We don't demand of them, that they represent us, and we also allow them to live as noblemen. We say we have a democracy here. I say we don't. I say we have a constitutional monarchy, and that monarchy is our elected officials. If you look at Washington, why should a congressman care about health care in this country? They have their own, and it's the best in the world.
No copays, no deductibles.
No copays, no deductibles, no anything. And you look at our state, and you look at our state reps, and look at the per diems, and look at the way they can just take, they seem to have, a trough they can dip in anytime they want money. Do they care? So, yeah, they've got the GIC, and I'm sure they've got the best plan, and they also have unlimited resources. And when they retire, they don't have the restrictions we do. I'm sure they're not capped at $360 when they're retired. They live in a different world than we do. They're the noblemen, and we're the serfs.
Well, the interesting part about the state reps and the state senators, which I found very interesting, is that their cost of living increase isn't based on the cost of living. It is based on what they feel they need for a raise, and then they vote it in. Their salaries, including all raises, are governed once a year by an act of the House and the Senate. So they can get $16,000 a year. Well, let's cap it. We need a $16,000 raise. They haven't done that yet, but they are the ones that control their own cost of living increases.
Boy, wouldn't every labor union in the world like to be able to go to the table and determine how much they want? I'm sure the firefighters that are being asked to give back 15% of their salary, which is, by the way, the amount that I think that the mayor's given him in the 2 contracts, so he's taking it back. But the fact is, I think everybody would like to have that thing, but it's wrong. It is morally reprehensible that this nation is run this way, and I will tell everybody here. I am writing a letter to the President of the United States about the retirees issue, and also about these kind of things, because to me, it is inexcusable and unacceptable to attack the people that support this country. The middle class is being attacked from both sides. You either have to be very rich or you have to be on public assistance, because they actually are going to have better health care than we do, because they don't have any co-pays. And I guess it's almost time for my...
Yeah, it's, and the thing that really bothers me about some of this is that people will turn around and say, you complain too much. You got everything. You had good jobs. You had good health care. You have a good retirement plan. You have blah, 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 blah. But the one thing that people don't understand, because they think you're collecting your state pension and Social Security, the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is Social Security does not pay city employees or even state employees the amount of money you think they're paying them, because their money that they receive from their state pensions or their city pensions gets taken away from them by Social Security. And I know some people who get a Social Security check as low as $10 a month. It doesn't even pay for their Medicare coverage. So don't think that they're living high on the hog on a retirement pension. There will be some people who will be living high on the hog. People like former Senator Joan Menard, who gets a cushy job that she shows up 4 times a year and makes over $100,000 a year over here at BCC. Lovely way to get a job. I'd love to have a job like that. Knock her pension right up to the ceiling.
And there are actually people, and most of the people with halfway decent jobs get nothing from Social Security.
Right, because they've been here all their life.
Well, not only that, even if you did pay into Social Security, I have enough quarters to collect Social Security. I get 0. I get nothing.
Right.
Because of my pay. And so if you've got a halfway decent job, you get virtually nothing. So that's another. But the fact is, I'll go into my commentary about the retirees, and I will set that right. Remember one thing. You said these people worked for these benefits. They gave up things. They didn't get the pay raises. You know, they made sometimes a lot less than they could make in private industry for these jobs. They took these jobs because they wanted a retirement, which, by the way, is attacked almost every year. And the politicians always want to destroy our retirement because they've stolen money over the years to run their cities like they do in Fall River. And the same thing happens with health care. Now we're not entitled to it. Well, you know, I've reached the point of, as I said, writing the President of the United States. I have meetings with our congressmen and senators. I've really reached the point of being totally fed up with this. The fact is, there are people who spent 40 years in DPW, picked up barrels in the snow and the rain and the 90-degree heat, and nobody seems to care, especially the people who represent us. There are people who walked the streets and protected you as police officers for 30 and 40 years. They put their lives on the line every day, and they don't care about them after they retire. Firefighters. The example I used at last night's city council meeting. We have a man that goes to our retirees meeting that's 95 years old. He's a retired firefighter. He landed at Normandy in the Second World War. He fought for his nation. He took part in the D-Day invasion. He spent 40 years on the fire department. 95 years old, his pension is garbage. Think about what you were making 30 years ago and what things cost 30 years ago compared to today, and think that the only thing you could get over the years was once in a while get less than $1 a day. Think what your pension's like now. His pension is nothing. How do I tell this man at our next meeting that the city is now going to require him to lose his Canadian drug plan, which he pays no copay, and now he has to pay $110 for his scripts from zero, and $50 for others from zero? How do I tell this guy? You say, well, you know, $110. Well, most of these people have shopping carts full of prescriptions when you're 80. How do I tell him that now he's got to pay a copay when he goes to the hospital or the emergency room? Granted, it's not as much as the other people. It's only $50, but $50 when you're living on $1,000 a week. How do I tell him he's going to spend $500, you know, maybe $300 to $500 a month on prescriptions when he only gets $1,000 a month? How do I tell people that? What is fair about that? It is an outrage. It's contemptible. It's one of the worst acts I've ever seen in the history of city government, and I will fight this until my dying breath.
Well, Chip, I think you said it well enough. Thank you for watching Spindle City Straight Talk. And keep watching, and we're going to be bringing you more information as the weeks go on. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.